Alrighty. Well, thank you everybody for coming out to talk about Tabular. We're also going to talk about Power Pivot. Most of the things, with the exception of the security piece that we're going to talk about today, actually all this stuff is going to be applicable to both Tabular and Power Pivot. So anything that you see me do today, if you have any questions about how to do it in Power Pivot, if you don't know where a particular option is or anything like that, just shoot me an email or put it in the question box there, and I'll be sure to try to get to those questions here as soon as possible. So after the session gets done today, I've got some demos and everything, obviously, that I'm going to show you. If any of you guys have been to one of my webinars in the past, you know I'm not a huge slides guy. I prefer to show you things rather than just having you read off of slides here. So at the end of this, what I'll do is get all the questions from Tammy, and I will put those up into a blog and post a link to the recording, and also zip up all the files that I'm going to build today and send those over to everyone as well, or put that up on my blog so everybody can download that. That way you guys can go out there and get samples of the code that I use and modify this for your own uses as well. Okay, so again, we're going to be talking about some of the limitations in Tabular. A lot of these things we can obviously work around that we're going to show you today, and hopefully do a little bit of talking about pizza as well. Okay, so just a little bit about myself. For those of you who have come to these webinars in the past, you're probably already familiar with most of this stuff. I work for Pragmatic Works up in Jacksonville, Florida. I'm a senior BI consultant with them, and I also do training from SharePoint, Power BI, IS, RS, AS, all the BI stack. I do all those training sessions as well. I blog from time to time. It's been a little while since I've put anything up on my blog there with the holidays and everything, but I've got a couple of cool things coming out here pretty soon. And then I speak places and write stuff whenever I get a chance. Okay, so here's what we're gonna talk about today. Real quick, I just want to give you a little bit of an overview of some of the current supported features in Tabular and what's currently supported in multidimensional. You know, we're not going to go through line by line every single one of the features that are available in each one of the products, but I do want to give you just a quick overview of the differences between the two, so that you can hopefully make a little bit more informed decision as to which one of the products that you want to use. Because Tabular isn't always the right choice, multidimensional isn't always the right choice, and there's a lot of situations where you may actually want to build one of each and give your users the option based on the functionality that they need at a particular time to go to whichever one of those models that you have. So we'll talk a little bit about the feature differences between the two, and then we'll roll right into a couple of things that I'm going to show you the workarounds for in Tabular. So many-to-many role-playing dimensions. Both of those, obviously, I wouldn't be talking about them today if there wasn't true native support inside of the product for them. We can work around both of those using DAX, and I'll show you how to do both of those. Dynamic security, this is one of those things that I put it in here not because it's a limitation of Tabular necessarily, but because we get a lot of questions on it. You know, there's a lot of documentation out there about how to do dynamic, like the row-level security inside of analysis services multidimensional, but there's not nearly as much out there about how to do it inside of Tabular, so I do want to show you guys how to do that today. And actually, I think it's a little bit easier to do it here inside of Tabular than it is to do it inside multidimensional. So I'll show you how to do that. And then time permitting, this ironically I actually came up with my client this morning, and I got an email from somebody whenever I posted this topic online that I was going to be doing this, asking me about how to do OR filters inside of Power Pivot or Tabular. So if we have time, I'll show you guys how to do the OR filters. If not, I'll definitely have that information up on my blog for you guys to take a look at. So we'll talk about how to do OR filtering, because natively the product really just does and. It does really the intersection between things. All right, so there's a fluffy kitten, because kittens like pizza as well. And let's talk a little bit about Tabular versus multidimensional. So you know, again, I'm not going to go through every single feature in the product and tell you which one's supported and which, but these are kind of some of the, you know, I went through the list of features and kind of picked out some of the big ones that customers always pick out when I go and talk to people about analysis services. These are really some of the highlights that we have. So actions and drill through, some of those two things kind of go together a little bit in the designer for multidimensional, but we don't have support for actions inside of Tabular. We do inside of multidimensional. There are some workarounds through some blogs out there that you can find to do some of that stuff, though. Calculated measures supported in both products. Drill-throughs and KPIs, same thing. And then obviously the many-to-many that we're going to talk about today, not natively supported, but you can do it here in Tabular with DAX. And then if you happen to need write-back functionality, to my knowledge there is no workaround or anything for that with Tabular currently, so you will have to go multi-dimensional. I'll put this link there on my blog as well, but that's just the link there on msdn.com or .microsoft.com. It's just the actual feature, the full feature comparison between the two products. The one that I did leave off the list there, but actually comes up quite a bit in conversation, is self-referencing hierarchies, so parent-child hierarchies. They're not natively supported inside of Tabular, but again, it's one of those things that you can work around with DAX. It actually is very involved, so I don't have time to go through how to actually set that whole thing up today. But if you are curious about that, I might see if I can put some resources out there on my follow-up blog, so that you guys can go out there and do a little bit of exploration on that yourselves, and shoot me an email if you have any questions about that also. And I'll put my contact information up at the end of the webinar here. All right, so first thing we're going to talk about is many-to-many relationships. So I'm going to show you how to do many-to-many relationships inside of multidimensional. I've already got a model built for that one, and then we'll go over to Tabular and show you some of the differences between the two of those. Okay. Some of the things we're going to talk about right here, as far as the data goes, is actually setting the data up inside of your data warehouse or at the source of your data. There's no difference to the way that you would do this. It's going to be the same exact model. You're going to have a bridge table between two other dimensions, more than likely, that has the many-to-many relationship, and then one of those dimensions will be related to a fact table. And I have a diagram out there that I will show you guys actually what that looks like. It's not super difficult. It's actually only one calculation that we're going to have to do. There's a lot of ways to extend this, so if you go online and do some searching for optimization of many-to-many relationships, you'll find a lot of different ways that you can actually take these many-to-manys and improve the performance or make them very, very complex. So we're going to show you a pretty simple example today, but it works for probably the majority of the situations that I've had clients that need to do many-to-many. What we're going to look at today probably works, I would say, for 90% of them or more even. Okay? The downside to doing many-to-manys inside of Tabular, because it's not natively supported and we have to write DAX for it, is we actually have to write some DAX for every single measure that we have inside of our model. So one of the limitations, or not one of the limitations, but one of the differences that you'll see when we go in and start building this is inside of multidimensional, because it has native support, it handles all of the associated measures for us automatically. In Tabular, we're going to have to do some coding ourselves. So because we have to go and write DAX for every single measure that's inside of our model, things can get a little bit messy in there. So it's going to get a little bit confusing, but with some work you can probably work things out and make it a little bit less confusing by grouping things together for your users. All right, so enough chit-chat here. Let's go and actually take a look. Here is my virtual machine that I've got up here. We'll start by taking a look at the actual data model here. Open up my database diagram. Show you what this actually looks like, assuming my VM decides to start responding here at some point. And then I'll actually show you what my multidimensional model already looks like for this. So what we have here, I just have a standard date dimension that links over to my fact pizza order. So again, the first thing, personally, when I think we can all agree on this, that the first thing that you think about when you start thinking about data models and many-to-many relationships, or even role-playing dimensions, or any of the stuff we're going to talk about, the first kind of subject area that probably comes to everybody's mind is probably pizza. I mean, I know that's what comes to mind first for me. I just assume everybody out there is the same way. So that's why we're using pizza data here today. So I have my fact table that's got all of my pizza orders in it, and it links over to my pizza table. So again, first thing that you think of when you've got a many-to-many relationship there is a bridge table between the pizza and the topping. So I might have 4 or 5 different pizzas that each have a couple of toppings on them, and the way I'm going to associate those two is through this little bridge table right here. Okay, and then we'll come back to this one down here. This is bridge pizza user. That's going to be for our security when we get to that a little bit later on. Okay, so real quick, just a preview of the data here for you guys. Fact table, very simple. This is just logging my personal pizza orders from the last year. I had to pare this down a little bit because the data set was a little bit bigger. So last year I ordered 38 different pizzas. I log all of my pizza consumption inside of this table here. I tell you how many pizzas, how many of that particular pizza I ordered on which particular day. And then I also have a field here that tells us when the pizza was first ordered. So if I go and I order a pepperoni pizza from Domino's, I want to know the first date that I ordered it and then all subsequent dates that I've ordered that particular pizza. And then I have a delicious index over here. So I don't want to get a pizza and then, you know, really not like it and make the mistake of ordering it again. So I have this delicious index over here that goes from 1 to 100, and we'll take a look at that here in a little bit as well. So I know which pizzas I actually like the best. Okay. So over here in our pizza table, real easy setup. I've got the name of the pizza. This is something I name my pizzas. Where I got the pizza from, and then this will come in play for our security. So this is the user essentially that's allowed to see this pizza location. So you'll see on my domain I have a Domino's user, a YourPie, a Pizza Hut, and a 5-star. So what I then have is my list of toppings. Okay, over here on my toppings table. So these are all my different options for toppings. Some of these should never ever be used on a pizza like pineapple. Why would you do that? That's a terrible idea. So these are all the toppings I can have, and then finally my bridge pizza topping table. So that bridge table, this is the one that actually sets up that many-to-many relationship for us that tells us pizza number 1 only has topping 3. So if we come over here to our pizza table, it's our just cheese pizza, and the topping on it is topping number 3, so it's only got cheese. So that's kind of the setup here, and you'll see a little bit more of this data once. It's a little bit easier to view when we put it inside of Excel, but I just want to give you a little bit of the actual schema that we're working with here in the background. So again, standard many-to-many between my pizza and the toppings that go on the pizza. Okay. So I'm going to show you just, again, very, very quickly here what we do here inside the multi-dimensional model. Very easy to set up. If we were to do this start to finish with the small set of data that we've got here, this would be maybe maximum a 5-minute walkthrough with even coming in and changing the different measures, the formatting of all the measures and everything like that. So you know, the same data model that you guys just saw inside of Management Studio comes over here. Inside multidimensional, because we have native support for these many-to-many relationships, I do all my relationships over here to my bridge table, and then the topping is the one that has the many-to-many to the pizza order. So for a particular pizza, I could have multiple toppings on that pizza, but an order ties to a pizza. So we just come in here, we set up this relationship type to many-to-many, tell it that our intermediate measure group here, that bridge measure group, is that bridge pizza topping, and away we go. So what this actually looks like, well, again, I'll show you guys because it's a little bit easier to visualize this when we get inside of an Excel environment here. So what this actually looks like when we open up Excel is, if we come over here and we'll put our quantity out there and we'll take our pizza. So essentially I've ordered close out the activation here, I've ordered the all pig pizza. I've ordered that one 6 times. I've ordered the pizza that I nicknamed Heaven 11 times because clearly I like that one a lot. Just cheese, I ordered it 4 times, pepperoni, so on. This one down here, this What Was I Thinking pizza, clearly it was not a good one, so I only ordered it 1 time. The question here, though, becomes which toppings are actually on these different pizzas here. So with our many-to-many already set up, all I have to do is just drag over this topping underneath pizza, and you can see that the all-pig pizza has ham, pepperoni, cheese, and bacon on it. Heaven has pepperoni, ham, cheese, and bacon on it again, from a different location, of course. Okay, so we can see all the different toppings that are on each one of these. If we didn't have this many-to-many relationship set up, which you'll see when we get the tabular model going here, you would actually just see this same value over here, this grand total. You just see it repeated all over the place. But what we do when many-to-manys, if we were to add all of these values up in here, you'll notice that our grand total over here is actually not the grand total of 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6. Because I ordered that I ordered this all pig pizza, I actually only ordered that pizza 6 different times. So this right here, the quantity is actually how many times I ordered the combination of the all pig pizza with pepperoni. This one here, because it's the same pizza, is the combination of how many times I ordered the all pig pizza with ham on it. Okay, so the problem that we run into if we don't have the many-to-many relationship set up here is these grand totals, they'll end up adding up all of these numbers incorrectly. So we'll end up with 24 over here, or we'll end up with 44 instead of the value 6, because I actually ordered this pizza 6 times, and I actually ordered that particular topping 36 times. Okay, so you'll see, again, once we get this tabular model going here, you'll see that these don't exactly line up properly inside of Tabular until we get our many-to-manys going. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and we're going to launch Visual Studio here, and let's get our tabular model going. We're going to do this from start to finish. Again, super easy to do this here. Okay, so I'm going to do a new project. We're going to do an analysis services tabular. We'll just call this one webinar. We'll say OK. And my local workstation here, Tabular. Let's get my workspace set up. And first things first is we need to import some data. Okay, so I'm going to come up here to the top. I'm going to say import from data source. We're going to select our SQL server. And again, this is just here on my local host. Got my database for all my pizzas. And my super secret password of passatword01 for my demos here. I'm just going to select all these tables, and I'm going to go ahead and put the bridge user one in there just because we are going to need that one a little bit later here. So I'm going to go ahead and import all these different tables. I'm going to say finish. And there's not a whole lot of data inside of here, so this will take just a moment to import. I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of setup for something that we're going to need a little bit later in the next demo, because if I don't, I'm probably going to forget about it. So we're going to go ahead and set up, make sure all of our relationships and everything are good to go. So if we come over here to our diagram, you'll notice when this diagram loads that it's actually already picked up all the relationships between the tables for the most part, because I have foreign key relationships inside of my source system. If I don't have foreign keys inside the source system already set up, then you won't see any of these relationships already built between the tables. So we've already got that piece is really pretty well done. What I need to do here, though, if you guys remember, if we look at our data here, inside my fact table that has all my orders in it, I had 2 dates. I had the order date, the date that I actually ordered the pizza here, and the date that I first ordered it. However, if we look at our model, you'll notice I only have one relationship, and it's going to that date ID, or the date that I actually ordered, I placed this order. So what we need to do is we're going to take this date SK, and we're going to drag it over here to the first order date. This is going to become, again, this is going to become very important when we look at the next demo, which is going to be our role-playing dimensions. But I want to go ahead and set that up just so that we get our model already, everything's ready to go here before we get too far into this. Okay. Next thing we're going to do, again, one of the differences between tabular and multidimensional here is that in multidimensional, all your measures are automatically created whenever you create a measure group. Here inside of the tabular model, you actually have to explicitly create the calculations. So I don't automatically get a sum of the order quantity or a sum or an average of my delicious index or anything like that. I have to actually create those calculations. That's also a difference between Power Pivot and Tabular as well. So Tabular, again, does not create those. If you're inside a Power Pivot, it will automatically detect, based on the data types and the relationships between tables, it will automatically detect which one of these it thinks are measures, and it will create measures for you on its own. So a little bit of a difference there, so make sure we keep that in mind. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here. I'm going to call this one count of pizza order ID. I'm going to say equals count, and then my column name is, oops, if I can type here, IZZA. we're just going to try IntelliSense here instead. All right, fact table and pizza order ID. Okay, so this is just going to give us a count of the records that are inside my table. If you guys remember, I believe I had 38 records in there, so that number there looks pretty good for us. Okay, we're just going to go ahead and create a couple others here. I'm going to go ahead and do a sum of both of these, a sum of the delicious index and the order quantity. So I don't necessarily have to write DAX for every single one of these. We do have this little option up here at the top, if you're not aware of this one already. The auto sum button will actually create these calculations for us. So if I'm at the bottom of one of these columns and I just click the little auto sum button here, it's automatically going to write the calculation for me. That's the sum of quantity and the sum of my delicious index. Well, the sum of a delicious index doesn't necessarily tell us the full picture. So if I decide that I like my pizza from 5 star as opposed to from Domino's, and I order a ton of pizzas from 5 star, that's not going to give us really a good comparison between the two locations. So what we really need to do is look at the average delicious index. That way, if I do 15 orders from 5 star, that all average out to about a 90 delicious index, but I order only 4 pizzas from Domino's that average out to a 95 delicious index, we're really more comparing apples to apples at that point rather than just doing a full sum total, because I may favor one location over another. Okay. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to click the auto sum drop down, and instead of clicking sum this time, I'm just going to click average. And again, because I'm underneath the delicious index column, it's going to give me the average of this magical delicious index field here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to find my little analyze button up here. So analyze in Excel. This is going to do much like we just looked at inside of multidimensional. It's going to open us up an Excel sheet so we can kind of compare the numbers just to make sure that everything looks the same between the two. So I'm going to pull off this many-to-many piece here. Just we'll get the order quantities here. So what I want is on my dim pizza, and then I need my sum of quantity. So over the 38 orders that I have done, I've actually ordered 45 pizzas, and if we compare that here over to multidimensional, we can see that those numbers, the numbers there actually do match. Okay. So our numbers are adding up beautifully between the two. If we come over here, though, to the multidimensional again, and we drop in this many-to-many, you'll notice, as we saw before, that everything on the pivot table here breaks up the way that it should. However, over here in Tabular, this is the way it would look even in multidimensional if I didn't have everything set up properly. If I were to put my topping up there on the columns, again, this is what I was talking about a little bit ago, where all the values just repeat. So I've ordered this bacon pig pizza 6 times, or this pig pizza 6 times. So it's repeating those values all the way across here. If you look at this just cheese pizza, for instance, that clearly illustrates that we have an issue with our data. I've ordered this particular pizza 4 different times, but the just cheese pizza does not have bacon or black olives. Who would put black olives on a pizza? I have no idea. That's a terrible idea. Green peppers. None of this stuff is actually on this particular pizza. If we look at our multidimensional side, though, and we go to just cheese, we can see that I ordered that just cheese pizza with only cheese on it 4 times. So this is really the way that it should look. This kind of illustrates for you guys the issue, and anytime that you see repeating values inside of your pivot tables, you should know immediately that there's some sort of an issue. A lot of times in Tabular, if you're not doing like many-to-many kind of relationships, if you see repeating values, a lot of times your issue there is that you don't have a relationship between the 2 tables potentially, or maybe your relationship between 2 of the tables is pointing the wrong direction. So Tabular made the decision, and it thinks that the primary key is actually in the foreign key table, and the foreign key is actually in the primary key table. So sometimes you might just need to flip that relationship the opposite direction. Okay? So anytime that you see repeating values, a dead giveaway that you have something wrong with your data. Okay? So our grand total over here in the very bottom is completely accurate, but this should not be the number 45 all the way across. Okay? Just one more time, just so everybody can see here. This is the way that it should look. We've ordered pepperoni 36 different times across these pizzas here. We've ordered ham 27 times. We've ordered cheese 45 times. We made that huge mistake in our lives and regretted it terribly and ordered green peppers just the one time and never went back and did that anymore, thank goodness. Okay? So let's go over and let's take a look at our tabular model and figure out how we can change this to actually look the way that it should and get that many-to-many relationship working. Okay? So if you guys remember when we were looking at the slides, we said that the problem that we had could be solved with DAX. And a lot of the problems that we're going to look at can be solved with DAX. So what we're actually going to do here is we're going to come over and we're going to create a many-to-many version of this count of pizza order calculation here. So what we're going to do, because we have to create a second calculation, this is where it gets into the whole, I mentioned that it kind of gets a little bit messy whenever we do this. So we do have to create additional calculations every time that we want to do many-to-manys. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to call this one count of pizza order ID many, we'll just call it M2M or something like that, just to shorten it up a little bit. Or you can call it many-to-many count, or, you know, actually let's go with many-to-many count. I think I might have a calculation later on that references this, so I probably shouldn't be changing the names of my calculations right in the middle of a demo. So, okay, so we've named our calculation here, and what we're going to do is we're going to say calculate. We're going to use the calculate DAX expression here. What we want to do is we want to calculate the count of pizza order ID, so our original calculation that we did there, and we want to filter that. You'll notice that this is an expression that we're then going to filter in number of times, and we want to filter that by the 3 tables that are involved in our many-to-many relationship. Okay? So we're doing this calculation here on our fact table, and we want to filter this fact table by the 3 different tables that are involved in the many-to-many. Okay? So that's going to be our key here. So the 3 tables that are involved in our many-to-many are going to be our bridge table, so our bridge pizza topping. Okay? We'll just click Tab. We'll push the Tab key, and it'll automatically fill that in for us. One of the other tables that's involved there is going to be our dim pizza table. And then finally, our dim topping table. Okay? And then we're going to close that parenthesis, and we're going to push Enter. Okay? So our many-to-many count here is going to show the same value because we don't have anything on a pivot table or anything in here, so it's just going to do the sum total or the count of this same measure here. If we didn't already have this count of pizza order created, instead of referencing this calculation here, I could actually put inside, in this location, I could actually make another calculation inside of here. So I could call this count of that pizza order ID column here if I really wanted to. So I don't have to reference other calculations, but I think it just makes it a little bit easier for us to be able to reference other calculations inside of here. Okay, so let's go over to our pivot table and take a look at this new particular measure in action here. All right, so I'm going to get rid of the sum of order quantity, and I'm going to go ahead and put our original count of pizzas on here. Again, you'll see that everything's messed up because I haven't refreshed the data. So I saved my model, everything's good to go there, but I haven't done a refresh here. As soon as I click refresh, you'll see over here in my list of calculations or my list of measures, you'll see that new measure show up, but this pivot table should look the exact same here. So there's our additional many-to-many count, but the pivot table looks the same. If we want the pivot table to look proper, then we have to use that new many-to-many that's filtered by all the associated tables. And now our pivot table here looks just like the one that we have in multidimensional. I used a different measure here. I'm using the count instead of the sum of the quantity. So that's why the number here shows up as 38 instead of 45. But just to make sure that everything is good, we can come over here and do the same thing. just so everybody can see the numbers do match up here, that we did in fact order 38 different pizzas, or we placed 38 different orders here. Okay, so real easy, not really a whole lot of work that we have to do inside of here, but it does get a little bit messy. So we would have to do this exact same thing for all of these other measures that we have inside of here. Okay. All right. So I'm not going to sit here and recreate all the many-to-many calculations for every single one of these. We could very easily come in here and just copy this one. I'll just do one more just to illustrate that we can reference this many-to-many quantity, and we'll change this from count of pizza order to sum of quantity. Push enter. That's going to create our new calculation there. I'm going to save, go over to our pivot table, refresh, and there's our many-to-many quantity. So over those 35 orders, 38 orders, I ordered 45 different pizzas. Okay. So not a whole lot of DAX to write, luckily. It's actually a very simple set of DAX. Again, you're going to calculate the actual expression that you want to do the calculate function on, and then the other three tables, essentially the three tables that are involved. Excuse me there. The other three tables that are involved in the many-to-many relationship. Okay. So not a whole lot of stuff to do there. As you can see, though, it does get to be a little bit crowded in here if we needed to keep creating these many-to-many calculations like this. As you can see, the calculation does work just by itself, so we only really need to create potentially one set of these calculations, but when we start mixing many-to-many calculations and non-many-to-many calculations inside of here, unless you have these called out as the ones that work with the many-to-many relationship, it might be a little bit confusing for your users. That's the only reason why I generally continue to create two sets of these calculations. I'll keep the regular quantity and then have the many-to-many quantity, just so that people know exactly what the use case is for it. Okay, so lots of stuff inside of there that could cause your users a little bit of confusion there. All right, the next thing we're going to look at here is going to be the role-playing dimension. So this is probably one of the biggest things that customers need. So this pizza delivery role-play thing that you see there over on the right-hand side. Funny story. When I was doing the slide deck, I actually did a Google search for role-playing pizza delivery or role-play pizza or something like that, and that was like the first search result. You can actually buy that on eBay. Apparently it ships from Great Britain, and it's for like teachers. It has to help people learn how to do, like kids to learn how to do math and all that kind of stuff. So pizza is a great way for your kids to learn how to do things as well. So to learn math. So pizza helps everybody in the world. So in case anybody wants to pay for shipping from Great Britain, or if you happen to be in that area, then go search for that on eBay. All right. So the role-playing dimensions here. Again, one of the most requested things that people need to do is the role-playing dimension. So it's very, very common, whether we're talking about our orders in this case, where I'm ordering something and then I have the date that I first ordered it, or let's say that you're doing, maybe you're a shipping company, or maybe you're just a retail company in general, and you have an order date, and then you have a ship date, and then you have a delivery date. You have a lot of different dates potentially on your fact tables. Well, what we don't want to have to do is create 4 or 5 different date dimensions just because we have 4 or 5 different dates. In multidimensional, this is handled very, very easily in that you only have to set up one date dimension, and you can actually use it for every single one of those different use cases. Here inside of Tabular, though, we can only have one active relationship between 2 particular tables at a time. So that's what that dotted line was that we saw when we set up that second relationship between our date and our fact table, is because we can only have one active relationship, the other one shows up as the dotted line. So what that means for us, and let me hop over here real quick just to kind of show you guys what I was talking about there. What this means is that anytime I drag over a date, it's going to link up to this date ID. It's never going to show me the actual first ordered date. So what that translates to over here inside of our pivot table is I only have one, if we do this here, I only have one date table inside of here. And if I drag over my date AK, so that's actually the date that what I actually ordered on each one of these days. So I don't really know that by looking at this though. It doesn't tell me that this is actually the date that I ordered it as opposed to the date that I first ordered it. If we go over and we look at that in multidimensional though, you'll see it handles it much better because I actually have two different date tables inside of here. One is for my order date and the other one is for the date that I first ordered something. So if we look at the dates that I first ordered compared to the actual order date, we can go through here and we can see how my consumption lines up. Okay. So if we do this here, we can see on this was the first date that I ordered. The Just Cheese pizza was on the 5th. And if we scroll down here, we can see the first date that I ordered this pepperoni and ham was on 1/19 and so on. And eventually we'll get down here to the last time that I ordered something new was on 4/13, and it was the What Were You Thinking pizza. And I realized that trying new things was a terrible idea, so I never tried anything new after this. I just went back to old pizzas that I knew I liked. So we've got two different date fields here inside of our model. We don't get that with Tabular. What we can do, though, is, again, using DAX, you'll notice a very common theme here, is using DAX, we can use the use relationship function, and we can actually tell DAX to use that inactive relationship for a particular measure. Again, as with multidimensional, the downside of this is we have to write additional DAX for every single measure for every single relationship. So what that means is, in this case of my data here, it's not too bad. I've only got a couple of measures and I only have one inactive relationship. So I only need to write DAX for 4 measures. I have my count, my quantity, my sum of delicious, and my average delicious. So that's only 4 different DAX functions I have to write because I have one inactive relationship. Just imagine if you're a shipping company or a retail company and you have order date, ship date, and fulfillment date. We'll say we have those 3 dates. You might have 10 or 15 different measures inside of your fact table, which means for 10 or 15 measures, you have to write 2 additional DAX functions for every single one of those, or DAX expressions, excuse me, for every single one of those, which means that immediately doubles the number of measures that you have inside of your model. So as you can tell, or as you can probably imagine, that gets very, very messy very, very quickly trying to do role-playing dimensions inside of Tabular. So if you are curious about how to do that, though, if you do have a need, or maybe if you only have a few different role-playing dimensions there, let me show you how to actually make that work. And I'll show you some of the differences between how it works here inside of multidimensional, how that translates over to Tabular here. So again, my active relationship is on the date, my inactive relationship is on the first order date. Okay. So what I'm going to do is over here on my fact table, once again, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to create ourselves an expression, and I'm going to call this one count first order date colon equals. So for those of you who may be watching and just aren't familiar with the DAX expression language here quite, on the calculations down here at the bottom, we always name the calculation and then do a colon equals, and then we say, here we'll say calculate. We'll say calculate. We want to calculate the count of pizzas, and this time we want to use our filter for this is going to be that use relationship that we just talked about. So we're going to say that I want to use the relationship, and this is where I specify that inactive relationship. So again, by default, it's going to use the active one. Here with use relationship, we're going to tell our tabular model how to navigate from our fact table to our date table using the inactive relationship. So what we're going to say is fact pizza order, first order date ID. So we want to use that inactive column, or the column that has the inactive relationship, and we need to tell it that that links up to our dim date, date SK. And close our parentheses and push enter and realize that we have a syntax error and eventually find our code somewhere. Here, I'm going to go ahead and just save this and close it out. For some reason this designer was giving me a little bit of a fit, and to save us some time here I'm going to copy and cheat. I have my calculation already created over there. We're going to paste this one. We'll push enter, and there we go. Okay, so I'm going to save this, and we'll show you how this looks differently in tabular versus in multidimensional. So now that we've got this updated, I'm going to go ahead and take off that many to many, and we'll take the pizza name off of there. Let me go back and just get us a measure onto here. So our count. All right, so here's our, actually I guess I do need pizza on there. Sorry about that. There we go. So this is, again, this is the order, this is the date that I placed each one of these orders. So if you scroll through here, you're going to see repeated values throughout this entire different pivot table here, all the way through all 38 of my different orders. What you have, again, inside of multidimensional is we end up with 2 date tables. Here, if we look at my drop-down, you notice I still only have 1 date table inside of here. So I'm only going to ever use that 1 date value. What we end up with, though, inside of tabular, the big difference is rather than having an additional table inside of our model, we end up with an additional column. And I can't remember what I called that one. Let me refresh here. What was the name of that? Count first order date. So now I have this additional measure inside of here. If we put that count over here, you'll notice that on 1/5, I've ordered that particular item the 4 times, but we can see that that was the first time that I ordered it. If we come over here, we'll see the pepperoni and ham pizza. The first time that I ordered that was on the 19th. The all pig, the first time I ordered it was on 1/26. The reason why this value here is blank is because this wasn't the first time I ordered it. The first time I ordered this was up here on 1/5. So it's a much different layout here with having this as a measure than it is having this as another dimension value. So the big difference here, because it's a measure, we can't do anything like this. I can't create a pivot table that has my first order date over here on my rows, and then it has my subsequent, my actual order dates going here across the top. So I can't do analysis with rows and columns inside of my tabular model when we do this. The best option really inside of tabular is, rather than writing these DAX functions here that will tell us to use an inactive relationship and create additional measures inside of here, really your best bet is actually to go in and create multiple date tables. So anytime that you need a role-playing dimension, what you really should be doing is going in and creating multiple date tables. It's going to make your model larger for sure, but it's going to be much easier for your users to understand what's going on. Part of the reason why this is confusing, even in multidimensional, is because once I drop this date over here on my pivot table, I don't know where this came from. So you'll notice up here in my pivot table field list, I can see that this was from the first order date and from the order date, but I don't know, once I drop it on here, which one this came from. I know based on the data here that this has to be the first order date because there's only a finite number of dates right here, but I don't know that based on what I see here. If we import the table multiple times, we can name those columns a little bit more intelligently and be able to give our users a little bit better experience and remove some of the ambiguity out of our actual pivot table field list here. Okay? So big difference between the way that tabular handles those role-playing dimensions through the use of DAX and the way that multidimensional handles those role-playing dimensions through the use of actually creating a separate dimension for us inside of our multidimensional world. Okay. All right, so again, that one's going to get very, very messy because we only had one extra calculation in there. For every single measure that you want to use the alternate relationship, that inactive relationship for, you'd have to create one additional calculation for each one of those. All right. Last thing I think that we're going to have time for here, again, I do have a demo for you guys that shows you how to do those OR, the OR functions. I'll post something online about that and get you guys the information for that, but I think this is probably going to be the last one that we have time to fit in today. So dynamic security, it's very simple, or it's very, very similar to the way that things are done inside of the multidimensional world, where we basically take the username that's browsing the workbook and we pass it into some sort of a bridge table. The thing that's very nice about this, unlike the other couple of things that we've looked at, this is not at all messy. It's actually very, very clean and very easy to do, and I find it's actually much easier to troubleshoot this and much easier to implement this inside of the tabular world than it is inside the multidimensional. It's not really any more or less code than it is in multidimensional. I just feel like the user interface and everything here inside of tabular is just an easier way to do this. Okay. So what we're ultimately going to do, there's actually two ways we can do this. I'll put the easy way inside my blog. I'll show you the little bit more complex way to do it here, which is actually probably the better way, using a bridge table because it's more dynamic. So essentially what we're going to have, and we've already got this inside of our tabular model right now, is we have a bridge table that has the username and the pizzas that they are allowed to see. So what this means is that if I work for 5-Star Pizza, I'm not allowed to see the sales for Your Pie. If somebody that works for Your Pie, they're not allowed to see the pizza orders that I've placed for Domino's. So this way, my competing pizza organizations, when they start lobbying for me to come into their locations, they can't see all the competitors' data. They can only see what I think of them. They don't see that my favorite is actually 5-star. They just see that one time I went into Your Pie and I got green peppers on my pizza, that it was a terrible decision and I haven't gone back there. Okay? So this way, they only see the data that they are allowed to see based on where I purchased my particular pizza. Again, as with everything that we've talked about, there's DAX involved in this. Good news is it's not a lot of DAX. Okay? It's actually pretty simple to do this here. So again, just to give you the setup of the data, we'll go back over to our diagram view here. And once this loads up, what you're going to see is we have this bridge pizza user. If we go to this table, what this does is it tells us for this particular pizza ID who is allowed to see it. So I have this administrator account in there. This person is actually allowed to see everything. The Domino's user, if you go and look in the pizza table, they're actually only looking at the 4 different kind of pizzas that I order from Domino's. Same thing with 5-star. They only see the 2 different kind of pizzas I order from 5-star, and then the 1 type of pizza that I order from Your Pie or Pizza Hut, if that happens to be the user that we're logged in with. Okay, so real easy setup here. Just essentially this is the intersection of the user and the data that they're allowed to see. If we were to take this into, let's say, a regional manager kind of a situation with a retail organization, this would probably be your store ID and the username. If this was, a doctor's office and some kind of medical data, this might be the actual patient ID and then the doctor that's allowed to see that patient. So you can have the overlap in here. That's why it's kind of a many-to-many kind of methodology here. You'll see that for this pizza or location or patient, whatever this happens to be, patient number 1, I've actually got them in there multiple times. So they can be seen by multiple users, but they can only be seen by these 2 users in this case. Okay? So pretty easy setup that we have here. Inside of Tabular here, all we're going to do is we're going to click on this little roles option. So we're going to click roles. It's going to launch our role manager. We don't already have one in here, so we're going to click new, and we're going to say pizza pie. Permissions, we need to at least give them read permission on our model. Okay? If they don't have read permission, then they can't come in here and actually take a look at anything. All right. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here. I'm actually going to copy just to save some time here. I'm going to copy this DAX function here, and I'm going to paste it in here into my pizza table, because that's ultimately where this security applies to, is my pizza table. Is I don't want anybody to be able to see other organizations' pizzas, or therefore the associated sales with them. So what this formula is actually doing is it's essentially taking all the values that it finds, it's comparing to the pizza ID here, and it's going to look up in the bridge table all of the pizza IDs that it finds for my username, which is going to be passed in. So it's finding the intersection of the pizza ID, my username, and the actual username that I'm logged in with. So that column that we had in there for username needs to be your full domain name, okay? The full domain name, username/domain inside of there, okay? And then it's going to apply that lookup value over to that bridge, the intersection there between the bridge table and our dimension. The last thing that we're going to do over here is wait for Visual Studio to crash and reload Visual Studio and cancel this some more and get Visual Studio reloaded back up here. We'll get this little guy created real quick. Open up my webinar one again. The nice thing about doing this here inside of Visual Studio is we have the option to very easily test out this security as well. So I'll show you, there's a little, whenever we click that Analyze button that we used earlier, there's actually an option inside that Analyze menu for us to be able to pick the user that we want to impersonate. Okay, so on my pizza dimension, go over to my members. So the members are who is actually involved in this role. So at a minimum, I'm on the wrong one there, but at a minimum, I would need to add those 4 or 5 different users: the administrator, the YourPie account, the Domino's, Papa John's, etc. What I'm going to do, just for simplicity's sake here, is do something you should never do and type words wrong. Never actually do this in real life. It's probably not a good idea, but I'm just going to put all the users in there from my domain just for simplicity and time's sake here. Okay. So I've got my calculation or my DAX expression set up there on my dim pizza table. So essentially what we're doing is we're securing this table. Again, I'll put a blog up about this user ID column here. That's kind of the simple version of the security here that's not nearly as robust or dynamic or any of that kind of stuff. But what that's essentially doing, that bridge table, is limiting the data that I'm allowed to see in here. So when I save this and then I click my Analyze in Excel button here, you'll notice it gives me the option to either use my current user credentials, which is actually that administrator account, or I can impersonate another user. And this is what we're going to do to test that data. So I'm going to go over here to my entire directory, and I'm going to pick my YourPie account. Okay, so I'm going to click OK. And now once Excel loads up here in this new Excel window, when it loads, this is actually going to be me browsing the data as though I am using the YourPie account. So it's really easy to test out our model here. So I'm going to scroll down here to my pizza dimension, and when we drag over pizza name, hopefully what we see here is what were you thinking? So immediately they look at that and they say, oh boy, he didn't have a good experience here. Just to show you guys that this is still working, if I come over here and I refresh this under my administrator account, you'll see that I still have all of my different pizzas that I ordered over here. So I can still see them for the administrator account, but I can only see the ones that we set up that security for here with that YourPie account. I can do the same thing and impersonate this with the Domino's account, and I would see the 4 pizzas that I ordered for Domino's. I can do the same thing with that with the 5-star account and see the 2 pizzas I ordered from 5-star. So all of everything that I've already done here, all of my many-to-many pieces here, if I were to put this in and get my many-to-many count, they'll be able to see that I was very unhappy. I don't have my delicious index on there, I don't think, working for many to many here. So let me take that off. But they'll see that on my scale of 1 to 100, I rated the deliciousness of this pizza that had green peppers on it and cheese as a 1. So they know immediately here logging in that I was very unhappy with my visit with them. Okay? But they can only, as you see again, only see the orders that I've placed with that particular location. So the security there, again, very, very simple to set up. I'll put that whole piece of code there that I put out on into that role onto my blog, so you guys can copy that. The key there, again, is to make sure that your bridge table, just to show you guys here the actual data, the key here is really to make sure that your user ID here is the full domain and user account. If you only put the user account name in there, it's not going to work, because what Analysis Services does is when it authenticates in there, part of your connection string and it passes that token in there, part of that connection string is going to have your entire username inside of there. And if it doesn't have domain and username on there, you're never going to see any data at all. So you will get 0 results for any query that you run against your database. The thing that I was going to show you guys here with the OR pivot table, it's super very, 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 very messy. You definitely do not want to do this. It's not user-friendly because you have to essentially import the same table twice. So if I wanted to do an OR on my pizza table, so let's say I wanted to see all orders that were either from 5-star or were of the type of delicious, then I would have to import that pizza table 2 times, and based on the fact that my users want to either do an AND or an OR logic, they would have to use different tables and different measures. So there's really no good way to make this actually look or present it to your users inside of your pivot table. There is just a massive amount of DAX that goes into this. It's probably just the one calculation. To do one, to switch one single calculation over for this is probably 10 lines of code. So it's just not a very usable solution for people. The key to doing it though is to use a disconnected dimension. So all I mean is, again, you import a table a second time, and you just don't connect it to anything else in your model, and that's kind of the key to making this happen. You know, like I said, I had somebody email me about this. I did a little bit of research. I'll post the link that I had. If you guys are ever looking for Tabular or Power Pivot stuff, there's a guy, his name's Chris Webb. He's a super smart guy. He's got a ton of Tabular and Power Pivot stuff on his blog, and he's actually the place where I found that. So I definitely can't take any of the credit for that one. He's the one that came up with a really good solution there that actually works. And so I'll post a link over to his blog whenever I do the Q&A for this one here. Okay, so you know, Tabular, very great product, very robust. There's just a couple of things that require some workarounds. Again, many-to-many and role-playing, those are the 2 big ones there. Lots of DAX involved in those between the 2 of them, not necessarily individually a lot of DAX, but when you start combining these features that you have to do the DAX workarounds for, things just start to get a little bit hairy inside of your model, and things become less and less usable in the end. So be sure that you're careful whenever you start to implement some of these features. There's my email address and my blog. Again, I will put up all the code that I used and all the samples and everything from this webinar. I'll put those up on my blog here in the next day or so once Tammy gets the recording and everything online. So be sure to go out there and check out all the Q&A. So if you do have a question, Tammy always sends me all the questions, and I'll get every single question that I get will be listed there on the blog with an answer to it, so that you guys can get the answers to anything that I didn't get to, or any deeper portions of this that you needed me to go into today that I didn't get a chance to do. Please be sure to either email those to me or put them in the chat box there, and we'll get them answered for you.